He wasn't Roman, but he wanted their empire. This is the story of the man who almost broke Byzantium. In the annals of history, few figures emerge with such startling ambition and intellectual firepower as Simeon I of Bulgaria. He was born into a world of shifting allegiances, where the mighty Byzantine Empire cast a long shadow over its neighbors. But Simeon was not destined to live in that shadow. He was a product of two worlds, the fierce burgeoning Bulgarian Khanate and the sophisticated ancient heart of Orthodox civilization, Constantinople. This unique upbringing forged a leader unlike any other, a man who could command armies with brutal efficiency while also composing theological treatises and fostering a literary revolution. He was a warrior, a scholar, and a visionary who saw himself not just as a king of Bulgarians, but as a potential master of the Roman world itself. Simeon's early life was not that of a typical barbarian warlord. As the third son of Khan Boris I, he was not originally in the line of succession. Instead, he was sent to the very heart of the empire he would later challenge, the University of Constantinople. There, he immersed himself in the world of classical learning, studying rhetoric, philosophy, and theology under the greatest minds of his age. He became so proficient in his studies that he was known as the half-Greek, a testament to his deep understanding of Byzantine culture and thought. This education was his greatest weapon. It gave him an unparalleled insight into the Byzantine psyche, their political machinations, their strengths, and most importantly, their weaknesses. He learned how the empire thought, how it governed, and how it could be dismantled from within. His path to the throne was unexpected, destined for a high-ranking position in the church, maybe even as the first archbishop of an autonomous Bulgarian church. His life took a dramatic turn. His elder brother Vladimir, who had succeeded their father, attempted to reverse Boris I's Christianization policy and restore the old pagan traditions. This was an act Boris could not tolerate. Returning from his monastic retirement, Boris deposed and blinded Vladimir, placing the scholarly Simeon on the throne in 893. Suddenly the monk's robes were replaced with a crown. Simeon the intellectual was now Simeon the Niaz Prince of Bulgaria. His deep religious conviction honed in Constantinople now aligned perfectly with the political necessity of cementing Bulgaria's place within the Christian world, but on its own terms. From the moment he ascended the throne, Simeon demonstrated that his ambition was as vast as his intellect. The peace between Bulgaria and Byzantium, carefully curated by Simeon's father, was shattered not by a grand territorial dispute, but by something far more mundane: trade. The Byzantine Emperor Leo VI, known as the Wise, under the influence of powerful merchants, moved the marketplace for Bulgarian goods from the bustling hub of Constantinople to the provincial backwater of Thessaloniki. More critically, he imposed exorbitant taxes on Bulgarian traders. This was a calculated economic slight designed to enrich a few Byzantine elites at the expense of the Bulgarian economy. For Simeon, this was more than a financial issue. It was a profound insult and a flagrant breach of existing treaties. It was a test of his authority, and he responded not with diplomatic protest but with the swift and decisive language of war, launching an invasion of Byzantine Thrace in 894. Simeon's initial campaign was a masterclass in psychological and military strategy. He knew the Byzantine army was largely occupied in the east, fighting the Arabs. He exploited this weakness mercilessly, his forces pouring across the border and routing the hastily assembled local Byzantine troops. Emperor Leo VI, panicked by the rapid Bulgarian advance, resorted to a classic Byzantine tactic: diplomacy and distraction. He bribed the Magyars, a nomadic and formidable people, to attack Bulgaria from the northeast, forcing Simeon to fight a war on two fronts. The strategy worked, at least at first. The Magyars pillaged their way through northern Bulgaria, and Simeon was forced to retreat. For a moment, it seemed the Scholar King had been outwitted by the old imperial games he knew so well. But Simeon was a patient and cunning strategist. He used the setback to his advantage, feigning negotiations with the Byzantines to buy himself precious time. While a Byzantine envoy was kept waiting in the Bulgarian capital of Preslav, Simeon secretly forged an alliance with another nomadic group, the Pechenegs, who were bitter enemies of the Magyars. In a brilliantly coordinated campaign, Simeon and his new Pecheneg allies crushed the Magyar forces, driving them permanently from the plains north of the Danube and into the lands that would one day become Hungary. Having secured his northern border, Simeon was now free to turn his full, undivided attention back to the Byzantines, who had been lulled into a false sense of security. The climax of this first war came in the summer of 896 at the Battle of Bulgarophygon. The main Byzantine army, confident in its numbers and its Magyar allies, whom they did not know had been defeated, marched into Thrace to put an end to the Bulgarian threat once and for all. Simeon met them with his veteran forces. The ensuing battle was not a contest, it was an annihilation. The Byzantine army was utterly destroyed, with most of its commanders killed and its soldiers scattered. The victory was so total that Leo VI was forced to sue for peace. The treaty restored the Bulgarian market to Constantinople, committed the empire to paying a hefty annual tribute, and ceded significant territory to Bulgaria along the Black Sea coast. Simeon's ultimate ambition went far beyond tribute or territory. He did not want to merely defeat the Byzantine Empire, he wanted to rule it. His grand vision was to establish a new imperial dynasty, uniting Bulgarians and Romans under his scepter. This goal, once a distant dream, seemed tantalizingly close following the death of Emperor Leo VI in 912. The new emperor Alexander was weak and foolish. In an act of supreme arrogance, he refused to pay the annual tribute that had been guaranteed by the previous treaty. This was the justification Simeon needed. He saw the internal weakness of the empire, now governed by a regency council for the young Constantine VII, as a golden opportunity. He prepared his armies not for another border war, but for a final decisive strike against the heart of the empire, Constantinople itself. In 913, the Bulgarian army appeared before the legendary Theodosian walls of Constantinople. This was not a mere raid. It was a declaration of intent. Simeon, however, knew that a direct assault on the world's most formidable fortifications was likely futile. His strategy was a blend of military pressure and brilliant political maneuvering. He did not try to storm the walls. Instead, he blockaded the city, demonstrating his power and causing panic within the capital. His true goal was to be accepted into the city not as a conqueror but as a legitimate partner in power. He engaged in complex negotiations with the regency, led by the patriarch Nicholas Mystikos. Simeon proposed a radical solution. He would be crowned co-emperor, and his daughter would marry the young Constantine VII, ensuring his dynasty would inherit the Roman throne. In a moment of desperation, the Byzantine regency appeared to capitulate. Patriarch Nicholas Mystikos performed a ceremony, crowning Simeon not on his own head, but on a headdress he wore, in a deliberately ambiguous ritual outside the city walls. Simeon was hailed as Basileus, emperor, and left, believing he had achieved his goal through statesmanship. He thought he had secured the empire for his family line. However, the moment his army withdrew, the court in Constantinople reneged on the deal. The regency was overthrown by the emperor's mother, Zoe Carbonopsina, who furiously rejected any pact with the barbarian ruler. The marriage proposal was cancelled, and Simeon's title was denounced. The betrayal was absolute, transforming Simeon's political ambition into a burning personal vendetta. The war that followed was one of unparalleled ferocity. Simeon, enraged and humiliated, unleashed his full military might across the Byzantine Balkans. The Byzantine Empress Zoe, having scornfully rejected Simeon's diplomatic overtures, decided to commit the full resources of the empire to a single decisive battle that would crush the Bulgarian threat forever. She gathered a colossal army, drawing troops from every corner of the empire, including the elite tagmata from the capital and legions from the Asian provinces, after securing a truce with the Arabs. At the same time, the Byzantine navy, under the command of Romanos Lekapinos, was dispatched to the Danube Delta to ferry Pecheneg allies into Bulgaria's rear, reprising the old strategy that had worked once before. It was a grand pincer movement designed to overwhelm and annihilate Simeon's forces. The stage was set for one of the largest and most consequential battles of the entire medieval era. On August 20, 917, the two armies met on the plains near the Achelous River, close to the Black Sea coast. The Byzantine force, led by the general Leo Phocas, was enormous, likely numbering over 60,000 men. They were confident, maybe even overconfident, in their numerical superiority and the quality of their heavy cavalry. Simeon, in personal command of the Bulgarian army, was outnumbered, but led a hardened, veteran force that had known nothing but victory under his command. The battle began with a furious charge from the Byzantine center which aimed to smash through the Bulgarian lines with sheer force. At first the tactic appeared to work, and the Bulgarian center began to slowly give way under the immense pressure. But it was in this critical moment that Simeon's genius as a commander shone brightest. The retreat of his center was not a sign of collapse, it was a calculated trap. As the Byzantines pushed forward, convinced they were on the verge of victory, they lost their cohesion and overextended their lines. At the decisive moment, Simeon unleashed his own heavy cavalry, which he had held in reserve on the flanks. The Bulgarian horsemen crashed into the sides of the disorganized Byzantine formation with devastating force. Simultaneously, the Bulgarian center stopped its feigned retreat and launched a furious counterattack. The Byzantine army, caught completely by surprise and attacked from three sides, disintegrated into chaos. The result was a slaughter of almost unimaginable proportions. The Byzantine army was not just defeated, it was virtually wiped out. Chroniclers wrote that the battlefield was covered with tens of thousands of dead, and the Achelous river ran red with blood. The Byzantine commander Leo Phocas barely escaped with his life. The planned naval landing of the Pechenegs was a failure, and the remnants of the imperial army fled in terror. The Battle of Achelous stands as one of the greatest military disasters in Byzantine history and Simeon's most spectacular triumph. The road to Constantinople was now wide open, there was no army left to defend it. While Simeon's military campaigns shook the foundations of the Byzantine world, his ambitions were equally revolutionary in the cultural and religious spheres. He understood that a true empire was built not just with swords, but with words and faith. His reign ushered in the golden age of Bulgarian culture, a period of extraordinary literary and artistic flourishing that aimed to create a civilization that could stand as an equal to Constantinople. At the heart of this project was the Preslav Literary School, which Simeon nurtured into the most important center of Slavic learning in the world. Scholars, translators, and writers worked tirelessly, translating Greek religious and philosophical texts into what is now known as Old Church Slavonic, the language codified by Saints Cyril and Methodius. This was more than just an academic exercise, it was a profound political statement. By promoting a liturgy and a body of literature in a Slavic language, Simeon was building a distinct cultural and religious identity for his people and for the wider Slavic world. He was breaking the cultural monopoly of the three sacred languages of Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. This effort produced a vast corpus of work including theological treatises, chronicles, and poetry, creating the foundations for literacy across Eastern Europe. The Cyrillic alphabet developed within his empire would become the script for dozens of languages, from Russian and Serbian to Ukrainian. Simeon was, in essence, arming his people with a powerful sense of self, one that was Slavic, Orthodox Christian, and independent from Byzantine control. Simeon's religious reforms were just as audacious. He sought to elevate the status of the Bulgarian church to match his own imperial ambitions. After his great victories, he declared the Bulgarian archbishopric an independent patriarchate, a status reserved only for the most ancient and venerable centers of Christianity like Rome, Constantinople, and Alexandria. This was a direct challenge to the established ecclesiastical order and an assertion of Bulgaria's spiritual equality with the Byzantine Empire. By creating his own patriarch, Simeon ensured that his imperial authority was divinely sanctioned by a church that answered to him alone. This move further solidified Bulgaria's position as a third great power in the Christian world and a leader of the burgeoning Slavic nations. Ultimately, Simeon's cultural project was Caesaropapism in its purest form, the emperor as the head of both state and church. He was not just knyaz or czar, he was the political and spiritual father of his people. The magnificent new capital he built at Preslav was designed to rival Constantinople in its splendor, with stone palaces, monasteries, and churches adorned with marble, ceramics, and mosaics. It was a city built to be the center of a new Slavic empire. His legacy, therefore, is not only that of a brilliant general who nearly conquered Byzantium, but also that of a visionary monarch who sponsored a cultural revolution, spreading Slavic literacy and forging a powerful identity that would shape the nations of the Balkans for centuries to come. Despite his overwhelming victory at Achelous and his subsequent domination of the Balkan Peninsula, the ultimate prize, Constantinople, remained beyond Simeon's grasp. The city's legendary triple-layered Theodosian walls proved to be an insurmountable obstacle for any land-based army without a powerful navy to enforce a complete blockade. Simeon was a master of land warfare, but he lacked the naval power to challenge Byzantine supremacy at sea. This single critical weakness meant he could ravage the empire's provinces at will, but he could not deliver the final blow. He made several attempts to besiege the city after Achelous, but each time he was frustrated by the indomitable fortifications and the Byzantine fleet's ability to keep the capital supplied. Recognizing his naval deficiency, Simeon attempted to forge an alliance with the Fatimid Caliphate in North Africa, a powerful maritime force. He proposed a joint land and sea assault on Constantinople, a plan that, if successful, would have undoubtedly spelled the end for the Byzantine Empire. In 922, his envoys reached the Fatimid court and secured an agreement. However, Byzantine spies intercepted the Bulgarian envoys on their return journey, and the plot was discovered. The Byzantines, now led by the cunning admiral-turned-emperor Romanos I Lekapenos, moved quickly to offer the Fatimids a better deal, neutralizing the threat. Romanos also proved to be a master of diplomacy, skillfully using Serbia and Croatia against Simeon, forcing him to divert his attention and resources to his western borders, just as he needed to focus on Constantinople. Simeon's final years were consumed by this relentless, multi-front struggle. While he remained undefeated on the battlefield, the constant warfare began to exhaust Bulgaria's resources. The dream of wearing the Roman purple in the Hagia Sophia was slipping away, blocked by a combination of stone walls, naval power, and shrewd diplomacy. In May 927, at the height of his power but frustrated in his ultimate goal, Simeon I died suddenly of a heart attack. His death brought an immediate end to the existential threat that had loomed over Byzantium for more than 3 decades. His son and successor, Peter I, was a peaceful man who quickly signed a treaty with Constantinople, securing recognition for his imperial title and the Bulgarian Patriarchate, but abandoning his father's quest for total domination. Though he failed to take Constantinople, Simeon's reign forever changed the map of Eastern Europe. He had forged Bulgaria into a powerful, confident empire, a true rival to Byzantium. His cultural and religious projects laid the groundwork for a distinct Slavic civilization, and the literacy he championed spread far beyond his borders. He had pushed the Byzantine Empire to its absolute limit, exposing its vulnerabilities and forcing it to recognize the Bulgarian state as an imperial equal. While his vast empire would crumble in the decades after his death, the memory of his power and the cultural identity he fostered would endure. Simeon I remains one of history's great what-ifs. The scholar who became a czar, the man who came closer than any other to breaking Byzantium and building a new Roman Empire from the north.